All right, let's get started here. All right. So this is primarily for the benefit of a potential YouTube audience, but hello and good evening. It's actually a little earlier in the evening than I usually stream. This is a guerrilla stream. I don't necessarily expect to see anybody here or have too much going on, but primarily this is going to be world generation, and we're going to look through the Legends file of a new world for Dwarf Fortress. So this is the Steam release of Dwarf Fortress. Dwarf Fortress is a game with a long history. It's been around for a long time. And it has sort of been known for a very long time as the sort of quiet corner of the video gaming world, where if you are really, really deep into your video gaming habit, you might poke around in it every so often, but it was considered extremely obtuse, basically impossible to get into directly. The UI was impossible. The game didn't graphically represent what it was trying to tell you. You sort of have to paint a picture in your head based on ASCII characters, you know. And so I played it a few times, and I had some fun with it back in the day, but, you know, I never really devoted a ton of time to it. But now the developers decided they're going to put it on Steam, and they worked with a company in order to get this put in a form that a modern audience can really dig into and really see what's going on here. So the UI is now mouse driven. Sort of see my mouse cursor on the screen here. The UI is mouse driven. There is now by default a graphical display. And so we can really dig into this game. But what does it mean to dig into a game of Dwarf Fortress? Well, the first thing that means is you need to create a world. There is no single world for Dwarf Fortress, much like a lot of colony builders of its type. Every time you start a new game, you're going to start by creating a new world. Now, you don't need to create a new world every time you start a new group of people in a new fort. Once you have a world, that world is persistent, continues. You can create a fort, have it be destroyed by vampires, and then create another fort in the same world, and then maybe go find the ruins of that old fort you just played in for a while and reclaim it. Or steal back some cool artifacts that you had access to before that maybe your dwarves had created and give that another chapter in the world. The world continues. At least as long as you want it to. So, what does world generation consist of? Well, the first thing that world generation consists of is a set of options here, right? So, size of the world, its history length. This is going to be important in a second, but just remember that the default is for 100 years. This world will have existed for 100 years from the beginning of recorded history. There will be 100 years. There's a selection for number of civilizations. So this world is inhabited by dwarves, elves, and humans are the major races. And then there are like goblins and kobolds and necromancers and all sorts of other groups that may pop into existence. This helps determine how many of those there are. Maximum number of sites. So each site is anything like a town or a city or a cave or a fort or something like that. Natsuki, hello! Welcome to my first ever guerrilla stream. I figured I would pop in and take care of this real quick before I do a big deep dive into this later tonight. This will be a YouTube video that I plan on putting up. But hello. Are you streaming tonight? Do you have a stream going on yourself tonight? Let's see. Number of beasts. So there are, when the world is first created, a number of forgotten beasts. These gargantuan creatures are created with the world. As they wander around, they will attack settlements, and they're searching for food and stuff like that. The more of them in the world, the more of them you may have a chance to run into yourself. Natural savagery indicates how many of the evil factions and such are going to pop up, and how many really nasty creatures like the creatures that will actually hunt living things for sport and stuff like that that exist in the world. Hoping to do some art streaming, but depends on work lets me escape. I totally understand that. Well, have a good day at work, and hey, if you feel like it, feel free to jump on. I probably won't stream too late tonight, so I might even be able to pop in for a while. Thank you for stopping in. Always happy to see you. And then the last option here is mineral occurrence. You can, everything from very rare to everywhere. Minerals are, of course, very important to dwarves, who are a mining and crafting civilization. And so having less minerals is not necessarily great, but I actually like to pump this one down to frequent. This is the only one of these that I generally change. Everything else I try and keep on medium, but I will actually pop mineral occurrence down to frequent just to space things out a little bit. Now you can actually go into detailed mode here, and you will actually like select exact numbers for all of this stuff. This is insane. This is actually everything from like weighted ranges, averages, you know, all sorts of these specific options. If there's something you really... Yggdrasil, hello there, welcome. If you really want to like pinpoint something very specific and edit it here, you can do that, but you definitely don't need to. The basic options are more than good enough. So with that, the only thing I've changed here is the mineral occurrence. I've knocked it down to frequent. I really, like I said, I like to have those spaced out a little bit better. With that, we're gonna hit this create world button. What the create world button is first gonna do is it's actually gonna start with the geology of the world. It's actually going to start from brass tacks and build this world up from the start. It's going to lay metamorphic rock. It's going to lay igneous rock. It's going to do things like spawn volcanoes that will allow it to determine where to spawn certain volcanic rock and such like that. It will actually start from the geology of the world and build it from the bottom. At which point it will then put forests and stuff like that and draw rivers and stuff like that on the top. Then it will put down a bunch of civilizations, and then it will just start simulating the life of every member of every civilization in the world. So this is all going to happen as I hit this create world button. So it's right now it's just loading in a bunch of stuff that it needs in order to do this stuff. And once that finishes, we should see, there it is. So it has done an elevation map, it's done temperatures, it's run a bunch of rivers, it's planting caves, it's planting forests. It is now counting up the years. It's going to count through the first 100 years, and it is counting thousands of figures and tens of thousands of individual events. As individual people live, are born, fight, create artifacts, move, become lovers, have children, and die in this world over the course of 100 years. See, we're looking at 12,000 individual figures in this world's history and 60,000 total events. So now this world has been created, and I can sort of scroll around it, and you can sort of see, you know, it's got tundra in the north, and probably, nope, not in the south. It's got tundra in the north. It's got all kinds of, like, each one of these different, like, physical areas is going to have a different, like, name. They're going to be, this is human settlements, I believe. Yeah, these are human settlements along the river. So the humans have a couple of kingdoms here, like a couple of major castles. There's a human tomb here, and then there's a bunch of just human settlements all along the river and across the water. Up here as well, there's more. So humans seem to like they control this section of the world. These are the dwarven homes. These are the dwarven fortresses. So the dwarves seem to control... Oh, there's tons of dwarven fortresses over here. There's like a ton all over these. So this like stretch of mountain range here on the west of the world are where the dwarves are. There's more human settlements up here in the north. And then these are elves. These sort of like inland heartland forests. Yeah, more humans down here. More dwarves over here, isolated on this island nation. There's a volcano here as well. Yeah, dwarven hillocks and dwarven mountain homes. Very interesting. Isolated on this little island. Could be interesting here. A single dwarven fortress, no, 2 dwarven fortresses here, and a bunch of small dwarven establishments up here, way up in the north on this glacial region. That's kind of cool. Right next to some human settlements as well. Humans and dwarves living very close to each other, and actually elves right here. All 3 of the main races living very tight on top of each other here. That could be very interesting politically. We'll have to see what the Legends file says about some of these. What it says about some of these things. And then an interesting bit of like, there's a massive set of inland seas here and islets, which are probably, well, it's marked as ocean. So I guess these aren't considered inland seas. Or maybe the game doesn't actually make a differentiation between those. I'm not actually quite sure. Right, because this is clearly an inland sea, and it just says ocean as well. It says temperate ocean. So anyway, so there are lots of these like inlets and inland seas which split up this sort of wetlands. This is a very low wetlands right in the middle, across the whole middle of the world here. And there's actually a dark goblin. Yeah, there's a bunch of dark goblin fortresses, dark goblin pits. Yeah, goblins own this sort of middle area here. So you must sort of think that, you know, trade between any of these sort of disparate kingdoms is very difficult. You've got to imagine that trade between some of these disparate kingdoms is not very easy. Some very, very interesting stuff that was set up here. A lot of different possibilities. So obviously we, playing as dwarves, we had to start thinking about where the dwarves are. So there are like 3 main dwarven outcrops here. This seems to be like the main might. Like this is probably the first dwarven kingdom here. They've occupied pretty much this entire mountain range. This entire like cascade of mountains here. Now there's a lot of mountain up in here that's actually not occupied yet by our dwarven civilization, although they are all pretty close to that. There's also dark goblin fortresses, goblin pits around here, good possibilities for raiding, and there's a human settlement right up here, a smaller like outcropping of the human civilization out here. Except these are goblin forts. Ah, okay. So dark goblin forts, regular goblins. So some pretty interesting stuff to be potentially, if we want to like be on like a river in here somewhere, close to like the dwarven settlements. Oh, I didn't even notice these at first. These are elves. Oh my god, elves are right on top of the dwarves. And these are dark goblin forts. Oh man, this is all more dense than I was expecting. This is so dense right in here. This would be a very interesting place to start. But that's only one option, right? We could actually try and go south here and like leave all this dense nonsense behind and put ourselves somewhere over here, maybe close to this inland sea, which would leave us close to a lot of the sources of dwarven power. It would separate us from the elves a bit. It would also keep us very separated from the humans, except by sending trade routes this way, which would require us to secure ourselves against these sort of dark goblin pits and fortresses. which could potentially be very interesting for setting up like a long-term, a long-term sort of goal of securing trade with the humans of the Southern Kingdom. It's an interesting thought. It's a great way to think about it. So that's just one set of options, right? There's also dwarves here, and these sort of almost forest living dwarves, which is kind of weird. These dwarven hillocks within this forest. It's very interesting. But they also occupy this mountain. But there's a huge mountain up to the north here that these dwarves don't possess yet. So maybe these island dwarves, I'm an island dwarf. Maybe these island dwarves want to expand into like the bigger, more menacing mountain. No doubt lots and lots of cool stuff in here. There's also like a nearby, volcano here. Let's see. Streams, but the thing is that with an embark here, the other thing would be that like there's just not a lot of other things going on, right? There are no goblins on here, there are no humans, there are no elves. This would be kind of more, I would say almost more boring, but with a potential of like, trying to just like occupy and mine out, this mountain region would be kind of cool. So that's option 2. Option 3 is this clusterfuck up here, which has dwarves occupying this very northern sort of glacial mountain region, but like there are humans on the coast, there are elves in the forest. They can't access anything without going through elven territory or human territory. Human territory on the coast, elven territory in the southern woods. These dwarves are kind of locked in tight. So I don't know, do we go to war with the elves and try and claim their forest in order to secure trade routes, with the other dwarven civilization, which is over here? Do we go to war with the humans and try and cut our way this way instead? I don't know. It's also way up here in the north where it's going to be cold, and there's like all sorts of problems with dealing with, cold weather. Lots of interesting options. I think the most generic start is going to be down here. Somewhere over here, maybe. Right? Like, this northern part of the mountain range is very heavily occupied by our civilization, but this stretch down here is actually still pretty open. There's a fortress of some kind here. It doesn't say... What, is it a dwarven fortress? It doesn't say, it just says fortress. So maybe there's something interesting there. Oslankir. Here's the problem. The problem we're about to have here is that I can't continue looking at this map once I go into Legends mode. Once I decide to keep this map, I can't look at it again. So when I go into Legends mode and I start looking at some of the names of stuff, I'm going to forget where a lot of this stuff is. Unfortunately. Rabbit puzzle is over there. So I'm going to just try and commit a couple of these like dwarven homes to memory so that I can remember which one's which. So that's Copper Orb, Bend Gilt, World Shields, Clouded Floor, Manor Year, Furry Lash. Oh boy, I said it. Fury Lash. And then over here, Roughness Smiles, Anvil Prairies, and up here, Safety Gem, and Hame Inked. All right, we're going to keep this world, and we're going to return to the main menu. This is going to offload all of the stuff that we just did into a file. I'm going to try and hold some of those names in my brain for a few minutes while we go into Legends mode, and then I'm going to try and see which of the different dwarven civilizations I'm gonna try and like remember 10 is furry confirmed. Stop! Natsuki, no, you're supposed to be back at work. Don't put that evil on me. Okay. So I think I actually need to start game into existing world. This is the Planet of Enchantment. That's the name of the world that we just created. So if I select this, this should load. I think I have to load back into it, and then I can start pulling up the Legends mode. Okay. Yes, Legends mode. Okay, this is Legends mode. This is the most wild part of this game. It has nothing to do with your actual gameplay. This is just the fact that this exists in the game is crazy. Absolutely crazy. This is a following. This is a list of all of the different elements of this world. Every civilization that has or will that does or has existed. Every book, every poem that has been written in this world exists in this list. Every artifact that has ever been made, every like legendary item that exists that has a name. Every person that was born, is living, and or has died is in this set here. So we're going to start with civilizations. The trade of scraps, Nish Igath. This is the first dwarven civilization that was created, and they, let's see, living racks, cell relic, banner cloistered. I'm going to try and find a name that I like committed to my brain, if I can. Living racks, pillar allies, because I'm going to try and remember where on the map these guys are. Clouded floor. I think these are the guys on the west coast. Living racks. Come on, give me something else. Clouded floor. I mean, this isn't going to include this isn't like a full list of literally everything they've done. It's just the major stuff. Wind merge. So a lot of those, like, damn, I didn't recognize any of those, unfortunately. The Crypt of Jaws that's the dwarven group that created that founded the first spot. This is probably the human. No, that's the elven settlement. That's going to be the elven group. This is probably humans. Yep, that's humans. This is the human group. This is going to be kobold civilization. That's a kobold group. Where's the other? Let's see. That's a goblin group. It's a kobold civilization that's basically done nothing. Sometimes these civilizations, especially the minor ones, just pop up and they don't do anything. Like they'll no doubt they'll have been engaged in minor scuffles. Like if I take a look at like their cave that they're based out of, you can see that, you know, they've got lots of different people that did a lot of training and became different kinds of groups and stuff like, or that became different kind of people. But mostly they just kept to themselves for the 100 years that this world has existed. That's a kobold group. That's another human civilization. That's the second human civilization. So we've got the Bright Kingdom and the Renowned Union. This is the other dwarven civilization. The Eviscerated Mansion. Palace Perplexed, Craft Prairie, Named Floors, Torrid Mirrors. Slapped Abbey. Fury Lash. Fury Lash. Was that the one? I think these are the far northern ones. A lot of elves living in this manor for some, or in this civilization for some reason. Castle Price, Square Rampart, Torrid Mirrors. I think this is the Northern Kingdom. Manor Year. No, this might be the one in the west. Manor Year sounds familiar. Manor Year, I think, was the one that we saw. Hard to say. That's the Dwarven group from them. That's a Goblin civilization, which has done a lot. That's a Goblin group from that civilization. That's an Elven civilization. Elven group. The Fiery Unions is a human civilization. That's going to be a kobold civilization. Sometimes you can tell just by looking at the name. There's the other Dwarven civilization. Here's Safety Gem. Safety Gem was one of the ones that we saw. This one's in the north. I mean, yeah, this one's the one in the north. So the Closed Boulders is a civilization of the dwarves. This is the one in the far north. There is no adventure mode yet. I know, I'm sad, but it is coming. They've guaranteed that it's coming. I'm sure it'll be in the game at some point. It's coming in months. But there's plenty to do. I know adventure mode is awesome, and I will definitely be playing the hell out of some adventure mode. I will be making a big group and collecting all sorts of relics and killing all sorts of nasties. It will happen. But in the meantime, I'm very happy with this. I want to wrestle with the local geese. Wrestle with the geese. Absolutely. That's also a dwarven. Okay, so some of these... Okay, I misunderstood how some of these were laid out. Looks like several of these groups of dwarven civilizations are actually what I thought was all one. Game feels so much more playable. I know. Trust me, as somebody who's put, like, I mean, not a ton of hours, probably 50 plus hours into this game when it's just ASCII characters and no mouse driven anything. Yeah. Trust me, I know. Barely get in even with the tile sets. I put like 50 hours into this game without a single tile set or anything like that. Didn't even use like DF hack or dwarf therapist or anything like that. Yeah, the elevations are so easy to read. Everything makes so much sense now. Like, and all the like UI is mouse driven now, so even, you know, if you don't necessarily know your hotkeys, you can just like click through and be like, oh, I don't necessarily know how to build a kiln, but like I know that it's under build. What's arena mode? Or is this an arena mode? I don't know anything about arena mode. It's not. Oh, it's not out yet. I don't know anything about arena mode. I've never even heard it. To be fair, I've been trying to avoid spoilers because this game, the idea that it's coming out on Steam has been a thing that people have been talking about for like ever. So after a while, I just stopped paying attention to it because I'm like, if I just keep thinking about it, I'm gonna keep wondering where the hell it is. So I just waited, and the next thing I knew it was out. So I'm like, hey, awesome. I saved myself a lot of time. But that also means that I have not been following the It means that I've not been following everything. So if we look at structures, trying to recognize some of these from where I was looking, because I want to try and figure out who's who. The market and safety. Yeah, that's not actually. This is individual structures within cities. This isn't actually going to help me. No, this would be sites. Sites is what I'm looking for. Sites is what I'm looking for. I'm trying to like get my head around who's where and like what's going on here. So we're gonna take a look at some of these. Like we're gonna go into some deep dives here. The copper orb. This is one of the ones I started. That's from the ships of Fondling. What a name. The noble orbs of the ships of yeah, fondle my noble orbs. Jesus Christ. Wow. Wow, what a name. And they created Copper Orb. Wow, we've already got an interesting civilization over here. The ships of Fondling created Copper Orb. And immediately they got attacked. Right in the early spring, they got attacked by a rock. They got attacked. They had one person struck down and then eaten. They lost a Cavi sow, they lost a cat, they lost a billy goat. The rock took an egg. Let's see. Then the rest of that year went pretty quiet, but then the three-eyed troll attacked. The rock showed up a couple years later, stole a ring and a cave lobster. That's funny. This dwarf necromancer that had been well, it was involved in this race, but this dwarf. Okay, so this dwarven necromancer comes back. A forgotten beast, Semo Spidery Profane, showed up, ate some animals, attacked a dwarf, killed that dwarf and ate him, attacked another dwarf, knocked him down and ate him, ate a horse. This first couple of years was kind of rough for this civilization, for this like for the city. Same three-eyed troll. Same three-eyed troll came back, fought a bunch of dwarves, didn't kill any of them, but fought with a bunch of dwarves. Became a historian, became a mercenary. Oh, a dwarf necromancer, a necromancer book or anything in this color is a means to make somebody into a necromancer. Attempted to corrupt the dwarf in order to have law enforcement look the other way. While completely misreading the situation, made a threat, valued the law, and refused. Yeah, this dwarf necromancer seems like they are involved in a lot of bull in these first few years. Someone to keep an eye on. Yeah, they're the ones that has this this book. Another rock attack, killed and ate some dwarves. Constructed the supper racks. That's got to be a tavern. Yep. So they've got a tavern now. Became an armorer. Hall of Emancipation, which has got to be a guild hall. Gave up being an armorer to become a prophet. Gave up being a trapper to become a weaponsmith. Let's see. A Hydra attack. Combustion questioned. Oh no, that's another one of these necromancers. There's a lot of necromancers in this. The starved crone attacks. Oh, okay. Dwarfs, the thing was created. Stricken by melancholy. Lost Waters. Alright, I'm actually curious about the story of... I'm gonna find this. Where is this Dwarven Necromancer? This one. Dwarven Necromancer. One of the first of his kind, so one of the first Necromancers. I was a general under the civilization. One of their generals. Wait, made a journey to the depths of the world? What is that? Unnamed underground area. Made a journey to the depths of the world. Tamed some jabberers and came back. Made a journey, tamed some giant rats and came back. This crazy MFer just keeps making trips to this, like, underground cavern, basically, taming a bunch of, like, nasty creatures and coming back. This is where he, sought to extend his life by any means, being too vain to give in to death. Began worshipping Ostar, and then acquired point crystals. Yeah, this is where he became a necromancer. Read the secrets of life and death. This is the attempted corruption that failed. So this is like the first thing he did after becoming a necromancer was try and basically convince law enforcement to ignore him. Made a journey to the depths of the world, tamed voracious cave crawlers and came back. Erdem heard about an artifact and decided that it was theirs by right, although they don't have control of it. They claim it from afar. They know that it exists and they claim it, but they don't have control over it. So what is this then? This is a legendary bismuth bronze battle axe. Say that 5 times fast. It is encircled with bands of cushion cut, precious fire opals, and reindeer hoof. This object menaces with spikes of smoky quartz. It was created in copper orb. It was offered to Udil fenced flies, which allowed so Ships of Fonding claimed it. And it was stored away in copper orb. And then over the course of the next few decades, it was claimed a couple times, and as far as we know, it's still sitting in the stores at Copper Orb. It's a bismuth bronze battle axe that nobody's used. At 44. So it's been 23 years since he became a necromancer. Erdem is starting to arouse general suspicion after appearing not to age. And that same year, Erdem fled to a new city, Weald Confused, which is part of the same civilization. He was away for 6 years before coming back to Copper Orb to pursue scholarship, apparently waiting just for the heat to die down a bit. Became friends due to shared interests in astronomy. In Gladsword was stored in the tavern. Erdem just took his book of necromancy and just stored it in the frickin' tavern. Okay. Independently discovered the rise of the sun according to this. What the hell? He's like an actual astronomy genius. Independently discovered the phases of the moon. What the hell is this guy? This is insane. Became friends after a scholarly lecture. Became friends who shared... Oh my god. But that can only last for so long. And after another 31 years in the city, He has appeared not to age. It's been 60 years since he became a necromancer. So he fled to another one, Town Realms. This is also again of the same group. He hangs out there for about 5 years. There was a race that he took part in. There's a throwing competition that he took part in. Another race he took part in. Due to ongoing surveillance as the plot unfolded, he was convicted of bribery and imprisoned for a term of 9 years. Oh, he was tortured, revealed nothing during interrogation. What the hell? As the plot unfolds. I didn't even see anything about bribery. I mean, there was the one instance early on, but I guess he was open, he was just trying to, like, bribe people. So in 97, he was imprisoned. He was convicted of bribery and imprisoned for 10... Oh my god, he had a lot going on. Looks like he broke free and fled to Bend Guild. It just says a fortress, though. It doesn't say a dwarven fortress, and it's not under any... What is this place? Hold on. Authored The Dwarf. Cougar Strikes. Constructed The Lunch of Ores. Fishery Worker. Tarnished Waves was created. This is some interesting shit. Became a spinner, did poorly gambling, an attack from a starved crone. Attack from a starved crone. Connecting Ben Guild and World Shields. They had to build some bridges in order to complete that. Fair denomination. That's got to be a guild. There's a possession, which led to a play. Chewed axes, became a monk. Stupid being a trainer. Became a mercenary. Throwing competition. And a foot race. After Root ended in a performance. I'm in ceremony. There's gotta be something in here about why it's no longer like part of the... Why it's no longer part of the settlement, right? Why it's no longer part of the kingdom? Uncanny Entertainment, which is a book of necromancy. Apparently there are several like masters in here that people from all over the world are coming over to see. Day of Morns, authored by an elf. Be an animal trainer to be a bowyer. Races, stop being a bowyer. No, weaponsmith. This is the Dwarf Necromancer we were following. I think. Necromancers. Huh. I'm very confused. Oh, I guess it doesn't really ever say it like that. Alright, never mind. So, general from years 1 to 44. Former prisoner. Yeah, so he like broke out and took off, and now he's just living in Bengilt, which is part of the same, like, there's a lot of necromancers in there. This is an interest. So this civilization, the ships of fondling, is a messed up. Is a messed up place. That's a messed up place. This is from the Cryptic Jaws of the Trade of Scrapes. The Trade of Scrapes is a... This also has a bunch of... So this world just has a lot of necromancers in it. Well, all right then. There's some very interesting things going on in here. I think one of the things that I want to take a look at is some artifacts, first of all. Because I want to see if there's some interesting artifacts that are currently, that we know of, that are in the hands of some nasties that we can think about when we start our game. So we have a legendary silver warhammer. It was created in copper ore by a dwarf who still has it as a family heirloom. All right, simple enough. Spiked iron ball. It was lost, but then found by an elf, and even though it was in the... It was created, offered to the dwarf necromancer, was made a symbol of the monarch. Wait, what the hell? Dwarf necromancer Ethel Boltweiss. Are you a... You were the king. You're the king of the Trade of Scrapes. Or at least you were. Are you still alive? No. You died. Well, you had a lot of kids. A lot of spouses. Notable kills. You killed a few goblins. You killed some named goblins and a bunch of other goblins. But you were eventually fought in the splattered sieges in defense of Birthdell. So Birthdell has been like being sieged by all kinds of nasties. And you actually fought in that war and died in it. Hate Callus. So Birthdell is a forest retreat. Hold on, this isn't even part of like the dwarven stronghold. This is an elven... And this is an elven settlement that didn't exist until the year 71. This is like a late addition to the world. But like as soon as it pops up, the Deceiver of Allegiance attacked the entangled bud. No, the beats of action. The Goblin Bad Feasts. Led the attack, and the defenders were led by the elf Wax Puzzled. And this is like, as soon as it popped up, it immediately got attacked by a goblin civilization. It just immediately got sacked by goblins. Faith Summers was lost. A bunch of necromancy books were lost. Holy hell. Well, I mean, they survived. Herbalists. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, this is Faith Summers. This is what we were looking at. So after offered to the king, so the king carried this legendary spiked ball, which was the symbol of his monarchy. When he died, it was lost, but a few years later, it was found amongst the rubble, no doubt, by an elf who is just keeping it as a family heirloom. Might be worth like a raid on the elves to try and recover that? Question mark. Legendary Pine Spear. Goad Failure received its name from the elf after defeat. Oh, so this was not created. This was a regular Pine Spear. And it got its name and became an artifact after an elf used it to kill a minotaur. The elf then struck down a known goblin. 2 known goblins. However, in 48, it was lost in the malodorous jungle. Ooh, that might be a place to try and embark on, because there's a legendary elven artifact that we could recover and take to the dwarves. Looks like that's not the only thing either. There's another one, Fold Silvers. Legendary small bismuth bronze helm. Oh, it's the same. Okay. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, that was gross. Banded beetle, copper short sword. It's being held as a family heirloom by a dwarf. Not really anything to think about there. Let's see. Anything that looks like it might be interesting? Indigo Tourmaline Toy Hammer. It's created by a dwarf. It was offered to the king of... Wait, you aren't the king. Oh, you're the queen! You were the queen. Interesting. I'm not sure if there's anything particularly like interesting or potentially useful. A dwarf bone weapon rack. Oof. It was made by a dwarf. Game of Fairy Heirloom was lost. It was recovered by a different dwarf. It was offered to Bim Stroked Traded, who currently possesses it. Bronze battle axe, iron warhammers are pretty good. It's the iron warhammer. All right. I mean, we've got bronze spear. Yeah, Benguild's a weird place. That might be a place worth like poking our head into. Enormous copper corkscrew. Created in Fury Lash and is taken as a... Okay. I'm gonna try and see if there's like... It's created by a dwarf. Offered, made a symbol of the Baron of Palace Perplexed. Looks like there aren't actually all that many like lost artifacts, but I mean it is an early world. It's only a 100-year world. Okay. That seems very interesting. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I will be back in a little over an hour, about an hour and hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes or so. For no, sorry, a couple of hours, like 2 hours or so, for my regular stream for tonight, which will be this. We'll be actually playing in this world. We'll be making decisions on where we want to drop off based on what we saw today. Feel free to step in and say hi. I really just wanted to take a look at what we had here. So thank you guys very much for stopping in and saying hi. I'll be back in a couple of hours. Honestly, I'm super freaking excited about this. There's some really interesting stuff in this world. I do think that in future I might do a longer world generation cycle, like instead of 100 years, maybe do it for 250, because that allows more time for there to be more like uh more forgotten beast attacks, more just random artifacts and stuff that have been lost to the world that are kicking around for us to like consider going into. There's time for like whole civilizations to fail, and so there's like old civilizations that don't even exist anymore in those longer time frames. After 100 years, you're still sort of in the first age of the world, and like all the old stuff is still there. So um, that is cool, and we're gonna have some fun with it. But I think in the future we'll do a longer build. So, yeah. So I'm gonna go for now. This was a very fun little session. I don't usually do these, but this was a fun little hour. Sit around, hang out with you guys. So yeah, if you want to stop in later, I'll be here. It's been fun. Uts tennis.